Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for one of our next Lunch and Learn sessions for Microsoft Teams. My name is Sophie Sturgeon and I'm one of the Digital Transformation Consultants here at the Digital Transformation Hub, a part of the Info Exchange group with Connecting Up. The Hub focuses on digital technology as an enabler to support service transformation, new ways of working, and assisting non-for-profits on a broader digital transformation journey. Firstly, before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri, Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here on the call today. Before we begin, just a little bit of housekeeping. We are on Microsoft Teams to make this as engaging and interactive as possible, so you're welcome to keep your camera on and stay on mute during the presentation. If you do have any technical issues, please type it in the chat box and I can assist you. We really encourage you to ask as many questions as you think of throughout the session. No question is too silly, so please type it in the chat box and I will answer it by the end of the webinar. If you are on a Wi-Fi connection or have multiple programs open, this can sometimes affect the quality of the audio and video of the webinar. So if possible, please close all other programs to have the best experience. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and a link to the recording and the slides and a short survey will be sent to you soon after the webinar ends. I wish to welcome you to the Transform collaboration with Microsoft Teams and introduce Anne, our presenter today.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Welcome everyone to the webinar today. In today's webinar, we'll be able to discuss reasons that options may differ between Microsoft Teams users, explain why the @ sign is used as a prefix to a name in a chat, and then we're going to describe the difference between teams and channels and confidently navigate them. So let's dive in. Not everyone sees the same options on screen within Teams as you. Why do you think that it is? If anyone in the audience today have the chance to use Teams before, can you type in the chat windows any suggestion or any reason that you can think of? I'll give you 3 to 5 seconds. So there are many reasons that cause the difference between the users using Teams. Why are you using the same applications but have different views? Here are some reasons. The first reason is configurations differences. Your tenants might be configured by your admin differently from other users. That's one of the reasons. The next reason is the applications versus the browser versions. So when you start using Office 365, probably you will open Teams first in a browser such as Chrome, Firefox, or Microsoft Edge. But when you start using Teams more and then your IT provider or your administrator at your company install the application version on your computer. The application versions with the most updated versions give you more features and more stable experience than the browser versions. The third reason is Mac versus Windows. So there are some features on Windows that are appearing earlier than the Mac versions and are supported more on Windows. So you might find the difference between Mac and Windows. The fourth reason is the screen size in general. So if you open Teams in full screen mode, you might see more icons, more features, but when you minimize the screen, Teams just try to squeeze everything in. So that's why some of the features are hidden in the 3 dots more button. The next reason is adjusted setting in Microsoft Teams version. So pre-release or late release, always at some company you don't set auto update, but always try to update Teams application to the latest versions, so you have the most updated features and all the yeah, security patches are all there, so you're safer in most updated Teams environment. And the last reason is how you're using Team as well, laptop versus your mobile phone, iPhone versus Samsung. So it's all a bit different on each device, and sometimes you find features at slightly different locations. But once you start get used to your own device, you'll find it easier. So that's some of the reasons why you can see slightly different things at different locations on Teams, but in general, 80% of the things should be similar. So always check your Teams in the first instance. So if you can't find any features, look under the more actions, which are normally the 3 dots button, so you can see more features. Now, let's jump to chat. Let's talk about chat. There are 2 chat options, one-to-one or in a group. So if you look at the screen right now, what is circled in red is actually the one-on-one chat. You directly chat with the other user or your teams in that chat area. There is also another option that is group chat. So the second options other than the direct chat is the group chat via a Teams channel. Sometimes people call it at post. There are some helpful tips when you use this function is you navigate to the right Teams, right channel, and then you use the @ sign to direct your message at someone specific. So for example, if you type @ sign into that reply box, you can see that Sophie, where I'm circling right now, it's actually getting a notification that she's getting a message in this webinar 2 collaborating post. By using these functions, it's feel like you are referring to someone just like you would do it in Facebook messengers or in other messaging applications. Another helpful tip is you can press Shift Enter. It will put the cursor on a new line in the chat instead of just sending the message instantly. The third tip is there's a very useful chat search features which help you search for a person or a key. So whatever you would like to find, just type it into the search box on the top of your team applications, and then it will give you an answer. So which of these options do you use more frequently? Drop your response in the chat box, and then let's discuss it more in details at the end of this webinar in the Q&A. I've mentioned a lot about Teams and channel, and then these might confuse you. So what are Teams and channels? I'll explain the difference now. Teams, Microsoft is a bit complicated in the way they name things. The app called Teams, and then they name something else in the app as Teams as well. So in Teams application, teams are a collection of people, content, and tools surrounding different projects, outcomes within their NFT. A team is designed to bring together a group of people who work closely to get things done. Teams can be dynamic for project-based work, as well as ongoing to reflect the internal structure of your nonprofits, for example, departments or locations. In Teams, you have conversations, files, and notes across team channels. And then those notes and conversations are only visible to members of the teams. What are channels? Channels are dedicated sections within a team to keep conversations organized by specific topics, projects, or disciplines, whatever works for your nonprofits. Channels are places where conversation happens and where the work actually gets done. Channels can be open to all team members, standard channels, or if needed, it can be private. limits communication to a certain people within the team. So many clients come to me and ask, or I want to share just a few files to a few members within this team. Do I need to create a new teams or what should I do? So that is when you can start using those private channel. If you look at the screen right now, private channel come with a lock icon next to its name. Only those granted access to the private channel can see the channel and actually access the files and conversation in there. So it's really convenient that way that you do not need to create a completely new area just to post those private content. Channels enable you to post, which means start a conversation or chat with other people in Teams, and add or edit files. So files that you share in the channels on the files tab above there are actually stored in SharePoint. So if you have already attended our lunch and learn webinar before, you'll know that Teams applications is more like a one-stop shop for Office 365 tenant. When you start using Teams and then Office 365, you no longer have to open a lot of applications. You just turn on your computer, open Teams, and everything is already in there. You no longer need to care much about other applications because Team has already done the work, getting everything in one place for you. So yeah, back to channels. It has conversation chat called as post, and you can add or edit files in there as well. Files that you share in the channels on file tabs are stored in SharePoint. By default, when you work on your document in Teams, it will open in there too. Teams allow you to have the most basic functions, so you can edit Word, Excel, PowerPoint files in there. If you require more features, more robust features, such as specific font dedicated for your organizations or some complicated calculation, there is an option to open the file in its native application, such as Word, Excel, and PowerPoint as well. So it's really convenient like that. When you open those files in Teams in a public computer, for example, you can edit the files directly in Teams without having to install those Office Suite application on that public computer. So it allows you to do a lot of things with files. Let us know if you have any questions right away. Otherwise, I'll continue with features in channels. Other than files, you can also add apps under your channels by clicking the plus sign. As you start using Teams or channels, you can see that Microsoft keeps updating more and more apps every day, but we all have our favorite apps in there. The most common ones that you can see on the screen are Post, Files, and Wiki. Post for chat, Files for uploading, editing, managing files. Wiki, we're not really a wiki fans, although you might be, but you can add useful app like OneNote in there. Personally, I would like to add OneNote because it is a collection of notes that I can share with my teams. For example, when I start meeting new clients, I would put notes about the clients in there. This will help us the whole team, get a grasp of what clients each person are following, and then what are the notes, what are the progress of the current project. Another application that I would like to use as well for managing project with my teams is Planner. Planner is very useful organizer for organizations that are embracing the agile concept. So it has buckets, it has different cards for you to organize the tasks among members in your team. So give it a try and then explore hundreds of apps in that applications sections of Teams, and then let us know what is your favorite apps as well. Coming back to channels, when I mentioned that or not all members of the teams have the same view in Teams because of different way it is configured, different application they use, or it's just simply the difference between Mac and Windows. You can right mouse clicking or use the three button, more actions dots next to a channel or Teams as well to find more settings that you can do with Teams and channels. You can hide your channels if it's no longer required, or simply delete it or leave the team if it's no longer useful to you. However, take care. Make sure that when you delete a channels or team, it is gone for good, and you lose all the history of conversations and collaboration in there. So whenever you delete your teams or channel, make sure that you already archive your files or back it up somewhere else. So make sure that, yeah, it is all nested somewhere before you actually deleted the team. Otherwise, you will lose it like forever. So that's everything I want to say today about how you can start using chat in Teams, how you can share your files, what is the difference between Teams and channels. Now it's question time. If you have any questions, please type into the chat box, or do you have any, Sophie?
So we've got a couple in the chat already, so we'll start working through them now. I'll first start with Mez's question. So do you need to create a channel to start working?
Can you please clarify panel?
Channel.
You can
channel.
Channel. So when you first created a team, it will by default come with a general channel. A general channel can be accessed by all the members in your team. You cannot delete that general channel. The moment when you want to create different channel for different group of members in your team, that's when private channel is very useful. You can start create those private channel, but the public channel and general channel can all be accessed by all members in that team.
Right, thanks, Anne. There's just a question about a recording of the presentation. Yes, we will send out a recording after we've finished. We've got Dawn's question here. So how do you add here? Whether that's referencing apps, do you click the plus sign? So you might want to go back a page, Anne, and explain from there.
Yes, I'll go back to that. Yeah, if you see next to wiki, there is a plus sign there. So you can click on that plus sign.
Right. Aaron has a question here. How does linking to SharePoint work?
So by default, the files are stored in SharePoint. So it's just the technology behind to manage and store the files that Office 365 Teams use. If you want to actually open the file in SharePoint, you can right click on the file, and there's an option to open it in SharePoint. But normally, if I already use it in Teams, I find no reasons that I need to open it in SharePoint, because if I want to edit the file, if I want to upload the file, I upload it directly in Teams. If I want to edit the file, I can edit the file in Teams or open in its native applications such as Word or Excel or PowerPoint install on my computer. If I want to delete the file, I'll just delete it directly in Teams. So think of Teams as a one-stop shop that you can do things in there without having to worry much about different applications behind. It's this interface called Teams. I hope that makes sense. Do you want to add anything, Sophie?
I think that was great. I think there's a follow-on question here from Julian, which is what is the capacity of SharePoint? If you're looking to touch on a little bit on, but also we can reference the next webinar we have on as well.
Yes, please, Sophie.
Do you want to add anything, Anne?
Yes. So the capacity of SharePoint Normally, it is managed by your administrator. So if you're unsure, my first opinion is if you're unsure about that, connect your IT provider or whoever set up your Office 365 environment. Normally, if it's going to be hundreds of terabytes or it's a lot that normally you do not use it all up, but if you require more storage, you can contact them to purchase more storage space. Teams do not directly manage that storage space. It actually belongs to SharePoint. But whenever it's reached the capacity, for example, 75%, it's very depending on how you configure your environment as well. But by default, I think it's around 70 or 75%. My Office 365 or Teams or SharePoint will give you a slight notifications on top of your application or screen that, oh, your storage capacity reached 75%. Please do something about it. And then at that moment, you will know that, oh, you need to do something about it. Either you need to archive your files, clean up your environment, or you purchase more storage space. And then more information about that will be mentioned in our next Lunch and Learn sessions. So yeah, please feel free to go on Connecting Upside and register for the next one. Do you want to add anything, Sophie?
No, that's great. And I think the key point with SharePoint and Teams is trying to find the right fit for how you guys work as an organisation. And it varies quite significantly based on size, based on how you collaborate together. So that's where we're recommending watching one of our other webinars where we'll talk about collaborating via via files. And then also having a chat with your IT provider in understanding what's the best fit for you. We have a question here from Dawn. We moved from SharePoint to OneDrive. Can it work the same?
So if it's about SharePoint and OneDrive, I highly recommend that you rewatch our previous webinar, the previous one right before this one on Connecting Up website. The recording is uploaded there. So it differentiates what is SharePoint and what's OneDrive. But my quick take is SharePoint, as its name, is for sharing with other people, and OneDrive is just for one person. So I'm not sure what's the reason or what's the drive behind your decisions to move from SharePoint to OneDrive. But in general, OneDrive is used for individual, and by default, it can only be accessed by individuals. It's used for drafting documents, for saving your own files before the file is ready. Once the file is ready, and then you're happy to share with your teams, you upload it to either Teams or SharePoint. So to the space that you would like to store your organizational files. So yeah, please clarify the reason that you choose to move from SharePoint to OneDrive, and then you can talk more about that.
Great, thanks, Anne. We've got a question here from Julie, and it's regarding reporting capacity in Teams, but from my understanding, it's a little bit more around Planner, and it's quite a detailed question. So Julie, what I'm going to ask Anne so kindly to do, reach out to you after the session and dive into that a little bit more with you, and Anne will actually be able to look at what you've built so far and provide you some tips and tricks to enable that further, just because it's out of scope of this webinar today, but Anne will be in touch. Nez has a question here. With one of our general channels in one of our teams, we utilise OneNote, but it doesn't appear to hold the app. How can we get the app to update after each meeting?
Sophie, can you please let me know if I'm thinking it clearly. So does that mean when you fill in OneNote, and then what you filled in OneNote is not updated in with the OneNote application afterwards, or does it mean something else?
Maybe, Nez, if you can come off and explain your question or type it in the chat, that would be really great. And we can hopefully answer your question. While Ms. are you come off mute then?
Sorry. It's probably easier to speak. So I've added the OneNote app to the Teams general channel, and during the meeting, obviously, we will update that, and it updates live, which is great. But then if I click on, say, the next week, I go in and I click on that app, and it's along the top, like it shows with yours, Posts, Files, Wiki, it's there. Why does it only show what we did last time, not the week before or the week before that, etc.? Like it just seems to capture the one that we worked on live, not anything else.
I just want to make sure that you use the same OneNote notebook that you add to the Teams channel, not the notes in the meeting. So yeah, as I said, Microsoft is a bit funny in how they name stuff. So you might mistaken the different things that name similarly or a bit similar. So in Teams meeting or a Teams webinar that we're having right now, you are able to add notes to each of the meeting as well. So that might be the notes that you add, not the OneNote notebook that you put in Teams. So I'm happy to schedule a meeting after these sessions to find out which notes that you are.
Yeah, it might actually be worth us having a call with Anne and sharing screens. And yeah, I think that would be really useful. I think that's sometimes when it gets into those detailed Teams questions, it's easier to have a look together. And Anne's really, really great at that. Right, so Dawn just had. Sorry, go on, Anne.
Sorry, being out a bit. No worries at all.
Right. Dawn just asked, where do you get the link for the previous recording? What I'll do is I'll pop it in the chat. You can always find all of Connecting Up's up and coming and prior webinars on the website. And so you can you can watch all the previous sessions. Great, I'll just find that link for you. In the meantime, I do have another question for you, Anne. I would like to add a survey to a conversation I'm having with someone. How would I go about that?
If you're currently having a conversation with someone and then would like to have a survey, so if you look at my screen right now, I'll go back to the chat. You can click on the 3 dots and then choose forms in there. Forms will allow you to give out surveys or do some quick questionnaire with your teams, or even in meetings, you can do that as well. Once you end the survey, it will show the answers or the survey's results to either everyone or to the organizer only, depending on what you configure in the survey. So give it a try and then let us know how it works.
Great, thank you, Anne. And one last one, and then we'll finish up. How would I add a new channel on Teams?
Hi, Sophie. Is that the question within one of the general channel in one of Teams? How they utilize OneNote?
How would they add? So the question is, how would they add a new channel on Teams?
Oh, how do you add new channels on Teams? So next to right-click on your Teams, or choose the 3 dots, more actions button, and then there's an options to create a new channel in there, either public or private.
Fantastic. Great, Anne. Thanks, Anne. I've just popped the last week's session in the chat. We do also run these regularly throughout the month, so you can always look at the future ones and join a live one as well. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to respond to the email that will be coming following with the webinar recording and slide deck. Otherwise, I hope you have enjoy the rest of your day and have a nice afternoon. So thank you for joining us.
If you have any question, and especially that OneNote issue, please reply to our email and then we can help you to troubleshoot that. Thank you so much.
Okay.